Hello and welcome to Systemize Your Success. As always, I'm Dr. Steve Day, and today I am joined by Celi Arias. And she's the CEO and founder of the Growth Ass business, where she empowers entrepreneurs to break free from revenue plateaus and burnout and teaching them to manage their ventures as a whole ecosystem. She's been recognized as one of the top coaches by Upside in 2024 and has grown multiple seven-figure businesses and draws on diverse background, extensive education to help other entrepreneurs scale their businesses to seven figures and beyond.
So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us, who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools, and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits, and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success.
With all that said, I am very excited to be speaking to you today, as I think this is going to be a super interesting conversation because I know we share a passion in systems. So I'm very happy to have you on the show. Hello, Sari.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming. So I wanted to kick off with a question really about why you started Growth Ass Business and like what were the challenges that you were facing? What were the reasons that you decided this was where your life's work should be?
Yeah, that's a really good question because, there's as much as we'd like to think there's a straight line, even if you're a systems person, you really want to believe in the straight line to growth, but no journey is a straight line. Um, I have always been in business since I was a kid. I started businesses to make money, to do the things that I wanted to do because I grew up without much access. And my parents were immigrants, and I watched them work really hard to survive and do things. I was like, I'll go out into the world and work really hard to do my own thing. So I've been in business for a really long time. I've been a founder. I've had key roles in startups. I've been in corporate. I've done an MBA. I've gone back to startups. And in that journey as a creator and a founder and a creative, I started to notice the businesses that do well are the ones that no longer run just from the creative's whim, right? So the founder usually has, is a visionary and has great ideas, and they're throwing ideas out every day, and let's do this and let's do that, and right. But the businesses that do really well is when they start to really systematize certain operations in the business. And I have this funny story where I was sitting in my corporate seat. I was in luxury brand partnerships, which is a very fancy way for saying corporate sales. And we have this Monday morning call where we have to report in our numbers. And I was basically complaining about the CRM and how it was a dinosaur and how it wasn't supportive to the type of sales and partnerships and work we were being asked to do. And my boss got very angry at me, and he said, Celi, stop trying to fix the system and just do your job. And I think he was trying to like scare me and make me feel bad. But instead, my brain kind of went, fix the system. Right. Right. Is that a thing? Like, are there people in the world who fix systems? Because that's this theme I've been seeing in all these different businesses and companies. And even when I was a founder, I wasn't very systematized. I mean, I had a fashion label. That means there's supply chain and a process and there's inventory and there's so many moving parts. And I wasn't super systematized about it. So I started to look up who fixes systems? Is there a person who fixes systems in the world? And I discovered operations, which is kind of a funny way to find your way into operations. So I worked my way into the world of operations from that moment on. I realized, oh, that's always the piece that people don't pay attention to in business. But if you really start to operationalize and systematize things, it makes things easier. So from then on, I found myself in companies where I was the COO and I just wanted to be the systems girl. But the thing is, when you are a COO in a company, or any role in a startup, really, everyone's kind of breathing down your neck to how's your role creating growth here? And as the COO of a tech startup, I reported to the CEO and the board, And the board was like, what are you doing to create growth? And I remember being like, me? What do you mean me? Why aren't you asking the founder that? Why are you asking the CEO that? Why are you asking the COO that? And I remember just feeling very like, I'm the systems girl. I make everything run smoothly. What do you mean growth? But the board was like, no, that's also you. That's you're also in charge of explaining to us how you're going to grow the revenue. So it was like, again, my next level challenge of, oh, can I systematically create growth? And so I was very, very uncomfortable with that pressure put on me. But I started to go, could I systematize growth? Could I every week go to this board meeting and say, here's our numbers and here's our conversions and here I built you this chart and I built you this cash flow plan, thing so that you understand where we're at and here's our plan and here's how we're going to. And so I started to realize as much as I didn't want to be that person responsible for growth, and I thought that was the CEO's job and I thought that was the founder's job, I started to realize like, oh, I can do growth. So that's how I got into over time kind of being an operations consultant, but more for growth, and then an operations-based business coach for growth. And that's how I ultimately built the Grown Ass business, which is really, if you're an entrepreneur and you're building a business, you should always be engineering it for growth. And that doesn't mean doing the full fun, cool, latest trend on social media or the latest marketing craze or whatever. You should actually be engineering all the parts of your business and systematizing everything for easy, predictable, calm, smooth growth. So that's what I teach people to do. That's a very long-winded answer, but there's like key moments in my life that I started to realize, yes, you could actually systematize growth. And actually, if we were approaching business that way, our lives would probably be a little easier.
Totally. No, I love it. And I think the fact that it's come from your life experiences makes it so much more relevant. The fact it's not just something you plucked out of thin air and, give it a go or whatever. You read it in a book. It's like, no, this is actually where I saw you could apply, or you could apply your specific special superpowers into an area where there maybe hadn't been that much attention on it from this perspective. And I've since I started doing business and working with as a coach for hundreds of entrepreneurs as well and all their businesses, it's like when people come to me with challenges, it's typically because they don't realize how what they are doing can be systemized, and it's that lack of understanding maybe of what it means to create systems, and then how that can then, like you say, you can then, oh, I could produce metrics on this. I can then produce something that's trackable. I can then explain this to people in a way that they do understand, and then get everyone else on board with the whole systems approach. So no, I love it.
Yeah. And I think also it's maybe intimidating for people who are not systems oriented, right? And so I always try to make it super simple. Like I was telling a client just yesterday, you probably get this a lot too, where I was talking to a client and she was like, the truth is like, I don't want to need you. I'm really smart and hardworking, and I want to have, at this point in my life, I want to have figured it out by myself. And I'm annoyed that I'm even hiring you as a coach. And I was like, I totally get it. And guess what? It gets worse. When I show you how we're going to systematize your growth, you're going to be really annoyed with me because it's really simple. And you're going to be very frustrated and you're going to tell me that's it. But it's because I have a systems thinking brain and I know how to engineer things for simplicity, and you don't, and that's okay. I'm going to teach you how to do that. Because I think what happens is people spend a lot of time beating themselves up for not having been able to do it, not being able to systematize it, not making it simpler, not creating processes, right? Rather than going, let me just learn this from somebody because it's a tool and a skill that I need to learn and make my life easier.
Totally. And also, business owners are typically sat there, small business owners are typically sat there doing a little bit of everything. And they just
Yes.
haven't got the time, the energy, the focus to be able to look at one specific thing for as long as you have, and say, okay, I'm just going to think about this and nothing else. and
Yeah.
and therefore I will become an expert at it because I can be. I don't have to wear the 55 hats or whatever. So
Yeah.
100%. So tell me a bit about the grow ass business. Cool name. What does it mean?
Thank you. I mean, it was just a cheeky name that happened one day and then it stuck. What it is actually, so to your point, is most entrepreneurs feel like they're wearing all the hats. And that's why we kind of do a lot of everything. We're always busy and we don't do anything really well. But what I've found over years and years and years of coaching several hundreds of businesses is that you're actually not wearing all the hats. You just feel like you are. And I know that's, frustrating to hear, but I'm going to argue that you're not really wearing all the hats. It's just that you're jumping from one thing so quickly that you feel like you're wearing all the hats all the time. And so what the grown ass business is, there's a methodology that I created, which is what if you actually knew what those 5 key growth systems are? What are those 5 hats that you need to wear? And you don't necessarily need to hire them yet because you don't have budget to hire these 5 key roles. And you don't need to wear all the hats all the time, but you do need to understand the minimum viable metrics and data and tools under each department. Because you can say you're wearing all the hats, but that's just a feeling of exhaustion and overwhelm and trying to do all the things. What if you knew under each department, what are the top 2 to 3 metrics and tools and systems you need to run under each department to have a solid business? So the Grown Ass business is based on this 5 key growth systems method, which is what if you, in a dream world, if you were able to hire a CMO, a COO, a CRO, which was a head of revenue or sales, right? A CFO, and you be the CEO, what would each department own, right? And so what we do is we create this one master dashboard, which is a tool that houses all the key things that each department head would own. So you and your very lean team can actually wear all the hats and actually own what really needs to be happening in each department to measure the health of each department and to systematize growth in your business. So instead of kind of being scattered and trying to do all the things, at a certain stage of business, so this is for businesses that are typically at low 6 figures or maybe even high 5 figures, but trying to get to 7 figures. Here are the things that you really need to have in place. So instead of throwing spaghetti at the wall in your marketing, for example, which is something that I see people do a lot, if you were to hire a CMO, a great CMO at this stage, what would they do? Well, before even starting a campaign and deciding, yeah, let's just try this campaign and let's make this content and let's make this asset, what a really good CMO would do is go, what's our product market fit? Do we have product market fit? Do we know what it is? So a CMO would work with the CEO to make sure that you have product market fit, which is, are we speaking to the right people? Do we have a product that actually solves their problem? Is it priced in a way that's relevant to that market and priced in a way that's profitable to our business? Do we have messaging and positioning around this product and this person that we can now promote and create marketing for? And is it in a business model that we can ultimately scale? When you have product market fit, then a CMO would begin to go, okay, now which channel makes sense and what types of campaigns and on what schedule? What often happens is, and I just spoke to somebody yesterday about this, they were like, we need to grow. We just spoke to a mini marketing agency and they gave us this beautiful, beautiful proposal for a social media campaign. And it's really expensive, but it made sense and we feel like we have to do it. And I was like, oh, really? On what grounds? Based on what? Anybody can make you a gorgeous proposal and beautiful assets that make you, salivate at the mouth, and you want that. But the problem is that campaign and is that marketing actually going to grow your business? Probably not. And it's why people get so frustrated when they pay for courses and coaches and marketing that's really expensive and get no ROI on it. Because we're kind of slapping things onto our business rather than going, wait, is this department optimized for growth? So we kind of go through that for each department. Like if I had a CFO, a great CFO who's really invested in my growth, they wouldn't be worried about my P&Ls. They would be like cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Do we have core capital? Do we have an easy way of seeing cash flow? Do we understand what our core capital is? Do we understand what our monthly expenses are? Do we understand what is our run rate? Right? They would want to see those basics in a really easy place. They would want a sales projection sheet, right? So for my COO day, no board would take me seriously if I didn't say, here are the campaigns we're doing, here's when we're doing, and here's our sales projections for each product. And here's how we're going to hit those sales projections. Most entrepreneurs don't build sales projections and don't try to run their year and their campaigns off of sales projections. So I lovingly force them to do so in this program. But what we do is we go and we build out the fundamentals. If you were to hire a great CFO, if you were to hire a great head of sales or CRO, if you were to hire a great CMO who's like at the table, invested in your business, what would they do? They would actually do these fundamental, not sexy things because they want you to get ahead and they want you to be profitable because they have skin in the game, right? So I created this program that's all about what do you really need to build a solid business and to succeed?
Cool. I like it.
Yes.
Awesome.
I can geek out on this all day. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
look.
yeah. No, I want to just reflect on something you talked about then, which is about marketing, because like I am one of those typical businesses that over the years I've spent more money than I'd like to remember on various marketing activities, campaigns, coaches. And as you were speaking then, I was thinking, at no point has anybody ever asked the questions that you just alluded to. No point. And then anyone said, okay, so really, before we start spending any money on or time on creating this campaign, on building this new webinar, on setting up this Google Ads campaign or whatever it is, like let's just stop and actually decide what is it actually we should be selling, and at what price point. It's
And it
like,
kind of
should we
makes me want to cry
look at
hearing
that
you.
thinner?
Yeah, it makes me want to cry because it's like, exactly, right? Like we're hiring people that are really, I'm not saying the marketers are wrong or that those people are wrong. It's just that they're coming in and doing the thing they love to do. And they're not super concerned with, wait, Steve, are we sure about your product and your pricing and that we have a way to speak to it that really speaks to the heart of your consumer? And are we sure that this thing that we're going to bring on and put on top of it, it's going to work? They aren't concerned with that because they don't have a seat at the table in your business,
Yeah.
right? So
So if I just carry that thought on, so knowing that is incredibly helpful and insightful, but doing it is always where, not always, often where we fall down as entrepreneurs because we can read the best book in the world on marketing strategy and et cetera, and think this book's going to change the world for me. And and then Monday morning comes and you sit down and your emails are there piled up, and then you've got three people quit that week and life goes on, and 6 months later you think, what was that book I read? Like where does the concept of, like, I'm listening to you now thinking, yep, I can see that being a real benefit to me as a business owner. And how does that become reality in my business if I'm already super busy and stressed and feeling like I'm wearing all the hats? So where do we actually start to actually make those steps towards this super growth focused systemized business?
yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. And for me, the reason that I created my program, so I'm like the worst because I used to be somebody who said people don't need coaches. I really want to like create this tool, create this methodology, create this process. You walk yourself through it. I'm working on turning it into a software now so that you don't need me. And I just want to hand it to people and I want to make it a monthly membership and I want you to just use the tool and run your business this way and be done and you don't need me. And I'm an introvert, so I'm like, here you go. Don't call me. Just go make money and be happy, right? But after being a head coach at a coaching firm and coaching lots of people, unfortunately, it actually takes some time to change our habits and to hold ourselves accountable to that awesome book we read, right? Or that awesome new system that we started. It's why a lot of productivity tools don't work. You can set up gorgeous ClickUp boards, but if you haven't set up the muscle in your in your internal system and your team system to use it, you're still going to be writing to-do lists on a piece of paper, right? So that's why in my program, the way that I created it is that basically accountability and coaching is baked in. And I did that with a lot of resistance and hesitancy because I'm like, no, I just want to tell you all the tools that you need to use. And this is all you need. And this is literally how business works and how you grow businesses. And you don't need me. But I did find that in the beginning, one, it actually takes a little bit of time to people go, wait a minute, are you really saying that I don't need to spend 15K on that social media manager? Like, really? You're really saying this is how I'm going to get leads? You're really saying that this is what I need to look at for my number? Like, that's it. It takes some time for the person's mind to shift to the simpler way of thinking, number one, because we're being sold, we're being advertised all the time, like complexity and all these things we don't need. So that's number one. And then number two, to your point, Monday morning happens, you roll out of bed, you scroll Instagram, makes you feel like shit about yourself, and then you read your emails or you read your Slack and two people are out sick and stuff has happened and you're back in the rat race and on the hamster wheel of doing everything yourself. So for example, in my program, what I do is on Mondays, we have an accountability call, but it's called CEO hour, but it's not really accountability. It's we talk about what's on your plan, what's on your dashboard, and what are you doing this week so that you accomplish one thing this week, that you don't get sucked into the hamster wheel of your week, and that you get one thing done that moves the needle towards your bigger goal. Because by this point, if my clients have an annual plan, a weekly plan, sales projections, pricing strategy, they have all these things in place. What are we doing this week to make sure that we're moving the needle towards that goal? And unfortunately, I found that, yeah, I have to hold people accountable for a while, and I have to be there and hold their hand and coach them. And we have this joke in my world. One of my clients once sent me this meme of Kevin Hart talking about what it's like to raise toddlers. And then, it's really funny. He just spends all his time going, no, put that down. No, stop that. No, what are you doing? No, I said no. What did I say? No, stop. No, no, right? And there's this like funny meme, and my clients are like, this is literally you every Monday, where we're like my clients will come to me and be like, this week I'm going to take over the world. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're just going to do your follow-up campaign. That's it. That's all you're doing this week. Right. And so they make fun of me that I'm literally like the mom that's being like, no, no, you're not doing that. Stop that. Put that
The
down.
killjoy, yeah.
Take that off your list right now.
Yeah.
And we have a good laugh about it. But what I do notice happens is that over time, and this has happened now over time, which makes me very happy. I intentionally only make my advanced program 6 months long because that's about the time that it takes for them to start answering their own questions and start showing up to those calls going, I got this. I know what I'm doing this week. Yes, the house is on fire, but I also know I just have to book this one thing this week. So it is a little bit about training and muscle memory. And eventually I have some clients who show up to a call, they'll have a big, in our office hours, they'll have some big question. And at the end of the question, they'll go, I know the answer. I know the answer. The answer is, and I'm like, great, then I've done my job. Hardest question ever is when your client asks a question and then they answer the question. So yeah, I don't think, as much as a book nerd that I am, I wish you could read the book and then Monday morning start to implement it. I don't think that we are wired that way. I think it takes us some time to adapt to a new way of doing and being and thinking. And it takes consistency in that it's a system in of itself, right? What I am actually secretly doing to my clients that they don't know is I'm creating a system that forces them to think about on Mondays, look at their dashboard, look at the plan, and tell me, yes, your whole life could be falling apart. What's the one thing you're doing this week? Right? And on Tuesdays, I'm a certified mindset coach because I've discovered that this is a huge barrier that entrepreneurs face is if we're not working on our mindset while we're working on our systems and growth. So I got certified as a mindset coach years ago because of this. So on Tuesdays, we do CEO mindset. And on Wednesdays, we have office hours. But what I'm doing is I'm getting them to get in this habit of I have specific check-ins for myself as a CEO every week that I'm checking my mind. I'm checking my strategy plan. I'm checking on Wednesday, I'm checking what questions I have and what do I think I don't know and I don't know how to solve. Right. And on Fridays, we have an accountability check-in, which is just check your metrics. Did you fill in your cash flow sheet? Did you fill in your lead tracker on Friday? Did you fill in your numbers? Could I go into your dashboard on Fridays and go, okay, Sarah is keeping up with her numbers. So I do that in my program and it's like, oh, wow, your program's so full. But like what I'm actually doing is training you to build the muscle memory of this is what it looks like to be a business owner.
Yeah, I can relate so much as a coach to what you're saying. And I think that the biggest light bulb moment for any of my clients that sounds similar to you is when they suddenly they get it and they
Yeah.
go, oh, now I see how this all fits together. Now I see what you've been doing secretly to my brain. And it's
Yeah.
you don't say it like that, but it's like I'm now like for me, for example, instead of waking up thinking, how am I going to do this? I want people to think of how am I going to get this done? Who am I going to get to do this? How do I create a system for this? How do I never, ever, ever answer that question again? How do I remove myself from this decision tree forever? Like, and that is like for me, that's the holy grail. Like when a client comes to me and they go, like one of my clients, Jason, at the moment, he's now moved working 2.5 days a week. And he's like, the reason he's done that is because he's bothered to put these operational systems in place. But that took time. Like you say, it doesn't happen. Like if you read a book about it that says like do X, Y, and Z, and then you'll be able to work 2.5 days a week. That's unlikely. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's unlikely. Unless it's a slight digression, but unless you absolutely love the subject, like, and you're just like, because I fall into certain books and like, but I've got an ADHD brain, so if I get into something, I get into it big time, and as long as I can stay focused on it, I'll do it. And so I have actually nailed entire books in my business, but it is the rare exception rather than the rule, and it's always been for things I'm passionate about. But actually, those aren't the things I need help with. Those aren't the things I need to focus on. So, for example, marketing and growth, I know is my blind spot. Like, that's why I'm so interested in getting you on the show and having a chat with you about this, because it's
Yeah.
just it's the area that you talk about is the one that I know I'm really, really good at a lot of stuff in business, but I'm also mature enough as a business owner to see that there are some parts that I just need someone just to kick me up the arse to do it and make sure I do and hold me accountable. All those things you said. So I can totally see the value in this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And eventually you build that muscle. And I love running, I love existing in a world where I don't try to keep my clients forever. They do graduate, and then I always tell them, like, I want you to be making the money, be living the life, and send me postcards from that
Yeah.
life. That's what I want. I'm not interested in this lifetime value stuff that all the business coaches talk about. Like, lifetime value for me is that you are succeeding in business and you are a glowing case study and testimonial.
Yeah. They don't need you anymore because
Yeah,
you've done your work. Yeah.
I don't want you to need me anymore. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Now I have to ask you though, what are some of your favorite business books?
Me. Oh. Um, Traction is probably one of my go-tos. Although
Yeah.
for my size of business, there's some of it which doesn't feel so relevant, but as a mindset around thinking of business, very similar to what you described, a holistic approach to actually thinking about business as a whole and as a leader. I think it's a very powerful book.
Yeah.
And I can't, as a total systems geek, not mention E-Myth by Michael Gerber, as it
Yeah.
was one of the fundamental books that changed what I focused on. I did systems analysis and design at university in computing. I then ran my own business for 7 years before reading that book. And it was only when I read that book did I realize that a bit like your path to systems in business is like it took me a while to get it that I could apply like this thing I love systems. I can apply it to my own business and make it better. Or for your case, apply it to other bit. And then it's like suddenly, oh, this light bulb went off. Like that's what we had. That's how we create a business that I don't have to kill myself over running. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, probably those two, top of my head for my systems brain. Yeah. How about you?
I always find this is hard because I am definitely like a consumer of books, and then they sometimes sit in my psyche or my subconscious, but I don't go and try to apply them all. But I love The Great CEO Within. That I know when I read it, I felt an affinity with that author. I love that book. And then Disciplined Entrepreneurship. I love that book as well. Because, and I think it's a funny book. It's well written and it's really well crafted. And if I were to write a book, I'd want to do it that way too, with comics and visual relief, and comic relief. But what the whole book and the whole premise is like, there's basically 32 steps to achieve product market fit, which I respect. But my whole goal is like, how could I get that down to 5?
Yeah.
As
32
a
sounds like a big number.
Yeah, and so I love this book because I'm like, I know none of my clients would ever read this book. And I
Yeah.
think, and none of my clients would necessarily read Traction or EOS or, like there's like, oh, this is not my language. Ugh. So I think it's a brilliant book. And he wrote it in conjunction with, I think he's a university professor. I'm totally mucking this up, but he teaches entrepreneurship at a really renowned university. And this is the process he takes his students through when they have an idea or a startup concept that they want to get funding for and build out into the world. They have to go through this process. And I love using it as an example because the truth is, if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have the luxury and the time and breadth of doing something over a full semester of trying to establish your product market fit over a semester or a year with the help of a professor and a course, right? So I'm always like, how do we get those 32 steps down to 5? How do we, because I do see one of the biggest problems I see is people try to skip ahead and just start trying to grow a business that they haven't established product market fit for. So I think his book is brilliant, but none of my clients would read that book and do the 32 steps. They'd be like,
They've,
no way.
I'd imagine they've all already started their business and they've already got
They've
the
already
products
started their
out there,
business
and
and
they,
they're
yeah,
already banging their head against the wall going, why isn't this working? And why aren't people banging down my door to buy it?
yeah,
And so my job as a systems thinker and as a coach is, how do I distill this book down and make it really practical and actionable?
yeah,
And that's kind of what my whole methodology is all about, is how do I take these big concepts that I enjoy, these books and I enjoy reading, and to make them really practical for people.
yeah. I resonate with that massively. Very similar approach to what, how I've built our business as well is give people the best bits of many concepts in a truly actionable, practical way that they can do without having to think about the why too big or too much, or worry about the all the other the peripheral stuff that they could be doing. And I think it's a really effective approach, because they can always go away and read around it if they want to, if they've got time to. And I think that's but yeah, it sounds like you've distilled the best bits of some of the best books, authors, courses, etc. out there, which I think we all do as coaches. We absorb and we learn, and I think most good coaches are incredibly keen academics, if that's the right word, but like people that you love learning. Like there's something about being. I love just basically like learning new stuff and then disseminating which are the best bits that I want to actually take hold of and make my make my own and all the rest of it. And I think sounds like you're very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think my ideal career would be lifelong student. So
Yeah.
that would be my dream job. Sit me down next to a pile of books. I'm happy, right? So a friend of mine asked me recently, she's like, if you could take a break and take a vacation, what would you do? And I was like, I would probably go sit next to a beach somewhere and take 12 to 15 books with me and study them and try to graph out and connect the dots and distill them to write my book. And she was like, that sounds miserable.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you would do for fun. I was like, yes, that's what I would do for fun.
Oh, totally. Cool. Fantastic. I'm going to draw this to a close of time, but I often say this, but I generally mean this. I could like, literally speak to you for hours about this stuff. I think we're very similar, like-minded people.
Yeah.
But before we go, I would like to ask you a few key questions, or what's the word? Signature questions. I could think of the word then. First off, tell us some of your favorite apps or browser plugins or things that you use that make your life easier or happier.
Oh, goodness. Um, in terms of my apps, I feel like I should know this. I feel like I've gone really, really simple. I'm definitely like the systems person. I've tried every project management tool. I've tried every fancy app and, all the things. And I feel like I've gone back to basics. So believe it or not, for my own marketing purposes, I use my notes app a lot and I have organized folders. Because every time I have an interesting conversation with someone like you, I probably from this conversation, I have three content ideas. Every time I talk to a client or I do a sales call, I get content ideas. And I used to try to create some complex system to manage it, and it was always out of control. So now I just put them into my notes app and pluck from there when I need to build content or build a content campaign or calendar. So the Notes app now I use for that because I've tried to complexify it and it doesn't make sense too.
Before you move on, just to qualify that, similar experience of trying everything out there. And I now, for my own personal management of all my content ideas and many other things besides, use Google Tasks.
Yeah.
Same concept. It's the simplest thing. It's on everything. It's linked to my calendar. It's always there. It's super quick and easy to use. It doesn't have any barriers. It's not overcomp. All those things you just said. So I think there is a time and a place for complexity, and it's not for capturing ideas and organizing yourself. So yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah. And I have literally tried them all, guys. So like,
Yeah,
I
I
just
believe
went
you.
back to basics. And then on my computer, I mean, I think my favorite tool on my computer is brain.fm. Have you ever
Mm,
played with that?
no, tell me more.
So it's binaural beats. It has a timer and it's binaural beats music, and you can select for categories of doing focused work, meditation, or sleep. I actually use them all three for focused work, but I find that if I put a 30-minute timer on there with my headphones and binaural beats, it actually does something to your brain waves and helps you focus. So if I only have half an hour to get something important done, I use that as a tool, and it's really amazing what it does because it does I turn off all distractions and all notifications and give myself half an hour to submit an article to somebody or give client feedback or build out fix one of my tools. So that's probably my go-to. And I even use it on client calls when I run my accelerator. The way that I run the accelerators, I don't teach somebody something and then give them homework to do. We actually sit on the call as a group and we work through things live. And I put it on in the background as music as well and with a timer because it also helps us get into okay, we have 15 minutes to fill out this cash flow sheet. Let's go. We have 15 minutes to now play with this sales projections tool I built. Let's go. And it helps people's brain focus. So that's probably my favorite tool.
Cool. I'm
I
gonna
should
check
have an
that out.
affiliate link or something because I feel like I
Yeah,
share.
I always think that I talk about some apps on here and thinking I should be making money from this, but
Yeah.
cool. The who else do you think would be a great guest for this podcast now you've been on?
Um, ooh, I have a few people for you. I have to think about this. It depends on which way you want to go, but I will say my brain twin, Diane Mayer. I have a friend who I don't call her my business bestie. I call her my brain twin, but she comes from corporate finance and economics. So she has a perspective on business similar to mine, but with a whole really much more interesting, like actually understands finance. So I would say Diane.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's and she's in the UK, so you'll have an easier time zone
yeah,
connection.
yeah. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll we can discuss. I'll
Yeah.
reach out. Fantastic. And the title of this podcast is Systemize Your Success. But what does success mean to you?
Success to me means living a life where I get to do absolutely what I want all the time. I think that we live a life of have tos and obligations, and we live in these created realities that there's all these things I have to do, and I dread it, and we create businesses that we then dread. And to me, success looks like getting to do whatever I want when I want it, and even within my business, getting to act and run my business from a place of want to and enjoying running my business.
Good. I love it. Finally, do you believe you can systemize your success and why?
I mean, of course, I think that's the whole premise of what I've built is I think that you can systematize your business growth. I think you can systemize your success. I mean, I have a newborn and I'm like, how do I systemize bath time and bedtime so that it's not miserable every night, you know? So yeah, I do think you can.
On that note, I've got three. I think I haven't got three kids. I'm lying. I've got two kids. I've got two kids. And is this your first one, or have you got more?
First, this is
So
why I look very underslept.
yeah, the second time round, it's like when bedtime happens, it's the first time it was a nightmare. The second time, even with the first and second, it's like I have literally you do create systems around all these things, and you can joke about it, but it's like so I go to bed. Like if I need to go to bed at 8, the kids get ready for bed at 7. And everything's I'm insane. Like, oh, it's an hour, yeah, but then there's no stress, there's no arguments, there's no fighting. It's like we go to bed calm. It's like and it's like
Yeah.
these little things in place, and we joke about it, but like the more I apply systems to every single part of my life, and whether it's a fully documented or just something like a habit you get into,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like see like the consistency in doing the same things, and just because then you have something to actually measure and improve on. And actually, I mean, it's a bit different with a newborn because they're just crazy. But when they get a little bit older, a little bit more routine, it's like actually it's like if you do the same things consistently with kids, like then you can measure if I do something different, does it actually affect something? Is it better or worse? And that is just like how I approach like every part of my business and my life now. And it's just like the same
Yeah.
thing. It's like,
Yeah, like I'm that way with my baby. I mean, he is a newborn, so he is crazy. But I do tell people, like when my mother comes over, or even when my husband tries to do something different, I'm like, you mess with the system, you pay the price. That's the
exactly,
deal.
yeah.
If you mess with the system, don't then hand me a screaming baby. You don't want to swaddle him because you think he doesn't like the swaddle. Fine, but you pay that price.
Yeah.
Don't hand him back. So then
And
people are like, okay, what's the system? What are we doing? How do we soothe a baby? How do we swaddle a baby? Because I'm like, you can do it your way, but I will give it back to you if the baby is crying. So yeah, everyone makes fun of me. My husband walks around making fun of me saying, this is Celi. Respect the schedule. I'm like, you can make fun of me all you want, or have a screaming baby on your hands. Which one do you want?
as you're saying that, I'd say this with all respect because I have kids of my own as well, so I'm not trying to sidestep or liken your child to a baby. But a lot of people talk about businesses being their baby because of how much time and effort and everything, love that goes into them. And I was just thinking, it's like it's exactly the same approach. It's like if you've got a way that works really, really well, and you say, look, do it this way, and they don't do it, it's the same thing. It's like, exactly what you've been just talking about, everything we talked about today is like if you've got a method that you know works, that you've seen work loads and loads of times, and then people refuse to do it and they hand you back basically a screaming baby for the analogy, then yeah, I'll leave the
Yeah.
rest unsaid.
So it's so true. It's
Cool.
true. I told you what to do. Don't hand me the screaming baby.
Exactly, exactly. Until you've tried it at least. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Sally, if people want to find out more, get to know you, or just reach out, how can they do that?
I'm very easy to find on social media. It's Celi Grows Business, which is CELI Grows Business. And my website's called grownassbusiness.com.
And that's grow ass business.
Grown with an N. Yeah.
Grown ass business. Thanks. I had it wrong in my notes, so I thought I'd clarify and it help people remember as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Celi, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, thank you. This was lovely.
Cool. See you soon.